So what's going on? We're highlighting our upcoming software release for our Filmmaster Nucoda software platform. It's called 2009.0, so they changed the release numbering convention, but that's not the important part, of course. This release features a number of new tools. It's got support for stereoscopic grading. We've implemented a feature we call gang grading, where you can basically lock clips together. And the top was a bit loose, I think.
There you go.
Where you can lock clips together, so that as you grade, both clips are being affected at once. And you can also output then both views out to a 3D processor, so you can actually view it in context in 3D as you're grading.
Okay, so you can do them separately and you can gang them.
Right, so you may have them separately at first to balance them against each other and make them match each other, and then gang them together and go on from there. Okay. And you can unhook them at any time, of course, as well. So that's one important feature in the new version. It also features a new image processing tool called the DVO Tracker. And this is basically a completely automated tracker for the color corrector. In the past, normally you would draw a shape around an object like someone's face if you wanted to bring up the face out of a shadow or something. Traditionally you'd have to sort of keyframe the animation of that shape through a clip. We have a new one where you simply draw the shape and the operator then clicks one button and the system actually does all of the tracking automatically. So it picks several points in the image, tries to track them all. Some of them will become impossible to track, and they actually change color on the interface and kind of just drift off to the side and disappear. So you're instantly sure that you've got a good track. That's an important one. We've also added support for Turbine into this version, and Turbine is our background render accelerator. It works by putting rendering nodes behind the front-end PC. Typically our systems have always been operated on a single PC. And so now we're able to shift rendering tasks off to render nodes behind that front-end PC, maintaining interactivity for the operator with all of the horsepower of the front-end PC. It also allows some neat tricks like being able to render multiple deliverables at one time. So for instance, if you have to make an SD version, an HD version, and 2K DPX files for film out, as you work through a timeline, each time you finish grading a clip, you can simply click a button to send that off to render on each one of those versions to render on one node. So you grade the first clip, click done, you move on, start grading the second clip. You're using all the horsepower of the front-end PC for that, but the render nodes behind have then gotten that first clip, and they're simultaneously rendering all three of those versions that you need. What that means is that by the time you come to the end of the timeline and you're done color correcting this whole sequence, you're basically just waiting for that last clip to finish rendering, maybe a minute or two, and your entire project is actually rendered and ready to go. That's also, the Turbine technology is also really important to our restoration and remastering customers, because they do a lot of the much more processor-intensive image processing functions that we have in our tool set. And those typically on a single PC you end up having to wait. It'll render the frame you're sitting on right away, but then you have to sort of wait for the rest of the clip to render. And with Turbine, you can basically send those clips out to background render on the nodes. And so operating just with, here at the show, we've been running just with 4 render nodes behind the system, and we see speed increases anywhere from 3 times up to 6 times, depending on the functions that you're doing. And that's basically just by putting 4 times, not even quite 4 times the processor power behind it, because here we're even using some older render nodes, so they don't have to match. They're just commodity PCs. It's nothing more than processors and memory and a network connection in terms of hardware. So it's a very low cost. We're continuing to highlight our integration with Avid and support for Red Raw workflows. And those two are actually kind of important together. We've got some customers that are now doing television shows that are shot on Red, doing dailies and finishing in an Avid workflow where they're reading and writing media back and forth to Avid, ISIS, and Unity file systems using MXF files through the whole workflow and that. We've also announced at the show, but we're not showing here, sort of a broadening of the applications for our software systems. So we'll be moving, as we move through this year, we'll be showing and releasing not only a dailies version of our product, but also late in the year an onset version of our product with live signal processing, ASC CDL-based grading at the lowest level. But what it means is that if you use our platform all the way through the process, from set to dailies to finishing to restoration and remastering, because we can share project files and share metadata throughout that whole chain, you can actually do open standards grading like ASC CDL grading on the base level, and then put more advanced grades on top of that would track through all of our systems. So the other thing that we've announced at the show in response to increasing demands from the industry are new versions of our grain and noise reduction and automated dust removal tools. So those are new tools that are in development. We've been showing some first results here at the show. But that's really important because Digital Vision's 20-year history has been largely about those types of tools. And I think it's an important statement to the industry that we're not just resting on what we have and what we've been successful with in the past. We're continuing to develop those and push them further forward.